You could create quite a stunningly detailed micro layout with narrow gauge. Hi, this is Marlin here at Hearns, and I just wanted to talk to you guys today about narrow gauge model railways. So if you don't know, narrow gauge is locomotives and trains that run on like a much smaller track gauge than standard trains, standard gauge that you'd see running around the country in different places. So what is gauge though? So the gauge is actually the width of the distance between the rails, and a lot of places around the world have used narrow gauge in situations where larger trains don't necessarily make sense, either because it doesn't fit within that kind of region or for economic reasons. So things like mines, logging operations, factories, and things that necessitate the moving around of goods and raw materials on a relatively small basis, usually covering fairly short distances. And there's some really great representations of narrow gauge and model railways, and I just thought we'd go through a few examples with you today. So we've got some trains here from the German manufacturer called Minitrains, and also Bachmann's branch line narrow gauge range, and we'll just have a quick look-see. So just here you'll see the difference between what is called 00 gauge, which is one of the more popular scales. This is 1:76 scale. Both of these are actually 1:76 scale. This being 00 and this being 009 narrow gauge. And you can see that despite these being the exact same scale, there's quite a significant difference in size. So 009 is 9mm gauge, hence the 9 in the name. And that is the exact same width as N gauge or N scale track. So you can, theoretically, you can in all practicality run this on N scale track or N gauge track, because it is the exact same track gauge. The only differences with 009 is that the sleepers are more correctly proportioned to 1:76 scale. So that looks a lot more appropriate with running these sorts of trains. So Bachmann branch line narrow gauge is representative of trains that you would find in the UK. And this is an old Baldwin. These were seen all over Wales after World War I, sort of leading up until the end of the steam era. And this is just your standard J class that was running all over the UK at a similar time period. And then here we've got Minitrains, which is, again, it's a German manufacturer that specializes in narrow gauge trains in European prototype, like this German Koppel and a few of these other small diesel shunters. For a modeler, 009 is really great for somebody who wants to achieve a great level of detail on their layout, but doesn't have a great deal of space to build one. So as you can see, this isn't much larger than a pizza box, but it's enough space to get a train going around. With plenty of space to move, you could create something quite scenic and visually interesting in this space, and being representative of the larger 00 and HO scales as opposed to N. There's a lot more commercially available product for scenery and details and people and figures and things of that nature. So the idea is you could create quite a stunningly detailed micro layout with narrow gauge. So that's just a quick look at another option if you want to get into model railways, or if you're looking to do something a little bit different. So come down and check it out. Thanks guys, have a great day.